Hey friends, it's Rabbi Jenny Solomon here with a Mincha moment on this Yom HaShoah, this Holocaust Remembrance Day. So I actually was thinking that I wanted to tie together Holocaust Remembrance Day, Yom HaShoah, with the day that we're counting in the Omer cycle. So as many of you know, as we're counting the Omer, each day has a specific focus. There is a weekly focus. In this case, the focus is on the soul trait of Gevura, so of courage, strength, restraint, discipline, boundaries, limits. These are some of the words that are associated with Gevura. And then each day there is a particular focus, a way in which we are trying to embody, exemplify, and manifest that particular quality. And so in today's case, the invitation is to use the quality of Hod. Hod can be challenging to translate, but I want to invite us to think about Hod as beauty or glory. And it's a kind of turning towards the experience. And so here's how I'd like to bring all of this together. I had the tremendous privilege this morning of hearing a Shoah survivor speak. Renee Fink talked about her experience as a child who was hidden during the Shoah. She was an only child, and at a very, very young age, her parents did, I think, the most courageous thing parents could possibly do. And as it became clear to them that they weren't sure they could keep their child safe, they gave their baby to the resistance, who found a family who would take Renee in and keep her safe for as long as it took, which turned out to be over 4 years. And it reminded me actually of a beautiful quotation from Anne Frank. Anne Frank said something to the effect of, I try not to think about all the misery, but instead of the beauty that remains. And sometimes the beauty, the Hod, is actually harder to notice, especially when there's a lot of misery, a lot of brokenness around. And I'm referring to, obviously, during the Shoah, but also during the times that we're living in. So many tragedies and traumas and systemic problems that are just profoundly upsetting and frightening. And one of the things that I think is so interesting is that our bodies and our brains are actually hardwired to be more cognizant of things that frighten us, of the difficulty, of the misery and the sorrow and the fears in life. And noticing the beauty that remains, as Anne Frank said, actually requires a kind of manual imprinting. It requires that we pause and stop and notice what is beautiful. And that takes a kind of added effort, because we don't need to do that to survive, right? We have to notice what is frightening out in the world, what is broken out in the world, to keep ourselves safe and literally to survive. But to notice the beauty and to notice the glory takes extra effort, but our brains need that too. And so on this day in which we remember the Shoah, and we're also, all of us are invited to work on this midah, this soul trait of courage. I want to note how courageous it is that survivors like Renee, who could have been ruined, just profoundly ruined for the rest of their lives, are still out there in their late 80s and 90s, telling their story so that we can dispel the lies of revisionist folks, of deniers, telling their stories so that we can learn from their resilience, from their wisdom, and telling the stories so that we can try to be courageous in our own lives and make a better world for our children and our children's children. And I also want to suggest that there was a lot of hod and beauty in the young students who come from all different backgrounds at my child's school, who were leaders in helping to make this Memorial Day happen at their school, and all the kind students who offered their presence and participation as Renee spoke. There are so many brave and righteous people, not just from our Jewish community. And in Renee's case, it was a Catholic family in the Netherlands who had 8 children of their own, 8 children who were hungry already. But they took her in for no money, for nothing in exchange, but because it was the right thing to do. May we all live with that kind of gvura, that kind of courage. And may we all take a moment today to slow down and perceive the beauty that exists even amidst the brokenness. Shalom. Peace.